In this edition of .leap, edition 8 in 2024, we will talk a little bit about decentralizing the newsletter itself, among other things. So let's start with the aforementioned decentralization. So I posted recently about .leap winding down at the end of 2024, and this caused some confusion and concern, so I'll clarify that this just means that I won't be leading it in a centralized fashion because of two main reasons. One is I don't think the grant has a chance of getting renewed, and I honestly don't really feel passionate about Polkadot anymore after seeing it shoot its own feet for years and witnessing the loading of more such guns lately in the treasury proposals online. So, I will be kind of surrendering the reins to the community, not shutting it down completely. I still feel passion for decentralization, I feel passion for technical innovation, and I'll do my best to make sure .leap lives on as a community thing by combining everything I've learned and built so far. And I will do this through Paragraph as a publication platform, Polkadot's Asset Hub as the backend for the website and the content, and GDCM as the DAO's foundation. GDCM stands for Gamified Decaying Categorical Merit, as a new type of on-chain governance that basically fixes all the problems DAOs have had so far. So how is this going to work? Well, each subscriber will be able to mint a .leap account. This will be a modular NFT. These will probably be visualized as a dot matrix, probably grayscale, similar to the original Twitter Anon account eggs, something generic and recognizable. We can call these accounts matrices, and they will gain color over time, dot by dot, depending on actions and reputations of the users and the actions you take. Each dot is basically a category from GDCM, and its size corresponds to the earned merit, and as the merit decays, the dot will shrink. So this is going to be a constantly evolving, vibrant set of avatars that are also fun to visualize across time. RuneSite is a project I've been working on, which uses Polkadot's Asset Hub for storing posts, tutorials, and comments as NFTs in a decentralized way. So this is where Matrix holders will be able to propose links to include in the newsletter, Hacker News style, and comment on them. Everyone with a Matrix will also be able to upvote or downvote a link and so on. And the strength of the vote will depend on the voting merit that you have. The more you vote, the more merit you have in the voting category. RuneSite is actually being built as a free-for-all platform for others to use as their decentralized blogging platform or website host or whatever. On the .leap RuneSite, there will also be a proposed launch button, which anybody with a certain amount of launch merit can trigger. At this point, everyone can vote on launch, whether or not they feel the edition is ready for publication. So if this passes, all links submitted into each category that can have an upvote count above a DAO-defined minimum will be included in the auto-generated publication. The newsletter's editorial is a separate entry and similarly voted on, which means that each edition will, in theory, have a different editorial by someone else who wrote the best thing in that edition. Finally, Paragraph will be used to launch the edition that's been voted in. I'm in touch with the Paragraph team about some upgrades that are needed for this. Since Paragraph supports delivering to both emails and wallets, regular email subscribers will still get the newsletter as generated by the community, while Matrix holders can get it straight in their wallets if they prefer not to give out their email address. And over time, as Matrix holders participate in different activities, they will grow different types of merit: configuration merit, voting merit, editor merit, finder merit, developer experience merit, so on, sponsorship merit. As this merit grows, you get a proportional stake in .leap. Over time, .leap is expected to generate some revenue, primarily through sponsorships and job ads, and later through events, podcasts, or whatever the community decides. And a meaningful percentage of all income will be given to Matrix holders with sufficient merit. A big chunk will go to Leap holders, Leap token holders, and a solid percentage will be reserved for the treasury so that the protocol can grow with bounties and fees. Those with sufficient stake in .leap will be able to opt in to receiving a part of that revenue. How much that will be depends on the config values voted in by the DAO. The opt-in mechanism is important for those under the tyrannical iron grip of the Empire of the World Police, otherwise known as the USA, where you're not actually allowed to earn any money without asking for permission. This way, unless you explicitly request the money earmarked for you, it will remain in the treasury account of the DAO, therefore not making any of this a security for those afraid of the USA. All the above is still heavily under heavy development, and it's being done just by me. So to build this faster with a team, I'll be raising funds with Leap tokens this summer. The target will be $1 million total with a $10K per entity buy-in. which also grants founder merit, which has visual and functional perks. And if the $1 million minimum is not reached, the full amounts will be refunded, and I'll continue soloing it. You can get in touch if you're interested in this, and if in case you don't believe I can pull this off, you can put your money where your mouth is by clicking the link in the editorial of this newsletter, which will take you to the prediction market on whether or not Dotleap will manage to decentralize by the end of the year. Now let's get into the updates. Hyperbridge, the protocol to enable trustless bridging to and from Polkadot's ecosystem and other chains, has been explained in depth on its own dedicated website. It's a bit of a tough read, but I recommend it if you're interested in this. Polkadot updated to runtime 1.2.0 and promptly experienced some stalled blocks, but this issue has been addressed and all is running smoothly. A new Polkadot RFC has been raised. It's proposed by LTF Schoen, and if implemented, deposits for buying core time would become slashable, and purchasers would build up reputation of core time use over time. This seems necessary to establish a healthy core time utilization. At the same time, I can't help but feel like it's all converging on the aforementioned gamified decaying categorical meritocracy. We are tracking merit, aka reputation, over time. Async backing is about to pass on Polkadot, and once it's enacted, Polkadot should enjoy a significant performance boost to its block time. More about async backing can be found in the wiki. Snowbridge activation on Bridge Hub and Asset Hub is about to pass, and the ratification of Jam seems to be passing unanimously, which means that most of DOT holders want better tech. If this passes, it will make Polkadot fellows kind of responsible for finalizing and implementing this specification. The Polkadot Kusama bridge broke briefly but was fixed with runtime 1.2.2. On the development side, the Web3 Foundation has announced a $10 million fund for implementers of Jam, Polkadot's new architecture. You can learn about Jam in the wiki. There's also a Token 2049 talk by Gav linked in the written version of the newsletter, and the Kusamarian has published an interview with Gav about the Gray paper as well, which is also a great resource. Due to a recent API change in the latest Polkadot runtime upgrade, some wallets and interfaces are not showing active nominations. This is just a UI issue due to the move to paged reward payouts. So this has already been fixed, and this update has also brought a big improvement where oversubscribed nominators are no longer a thing, so you can earn the inflation interest no matter how many other nominators there are. The Wish for Change track in governance is a signaling mechanism for DOT holders which uses on-chain remarks to indicate support of an idea without turning it into an actual proposal. In theory, it can tell Parity and the others in charge of Polkadot about the direction the community wants the ecosystem to take. The most interesting and most controversial one right now is Giotto's proposal to reduce Polkadot's inflation. A nice discussion about it is happening on X, courtesy of Alice and Bob. A DX refactor of the XCM simulator example from the codebase has been merged in. This PR breaks down the XCM simulator example in a way that Sean Tabrizi believes is more approachable by a new developer who is looking to navigate the various components of the end-to-end example and modify it themselves. Accordingly, XCM integration has landed in Ink. You should now be able to, in theory, send XCM messages from Ink smart contracts. There's a new validator disabling strategy implemented, which you might be interested in if you're validating. This applies in particular to validators who miss their slots or otherwise do some offenses. Basic Fisherman has also landed as a definition as part of Beefy, and TX Wrapper Core tool now has support for the asset conversion palette, making it possible to DEX through TX Wrapper. Dynamic HRMP channel size resizing has been merged in so that configuration changes in the scope don't have to be runtime upgrades anymore, and XCM calls will now support custom function calls on destinations. This is really cool because it means you'll be able to send assets and then also trigger another message at the same time, which can be any operation. This will allow for auto conversions of funds or other rich scenarios, like if Remark was still building in Polkadot, I could see it mean that we could buy one NFT on one chain, then another one on the other chain and transfer it via chain 3 and then immediately have it equipped or even listed for sale somewhere. The ability to trigger tasks with unsigned transactions is coming. Similar to I'm Online, which requires no TX fee, this will now be applicable to a wider variety of tasks. It should also be easier to debug stuck or slow jobs with a new metric for tracking how long they've been in the queue. The parachain template has been improved, brought up to date, and now has async backing enabled too. So get to building. The XCM cookbook is coming, aiming to improve DX on XCM significantly, and the treasury palette will soon be able to rely on the relay chain blocks as unit of time rather than a chain's own blocks. This is useful for chains that have the treasury but that do not produce blocks on a regular basis but on demand, so they can trigger something based on time as reported by the relay chain, not themselves. Under dog food of the day, we set up a prediction market on Zeitgeist about the decentralization of .leap, as I mentioned before, so get in there and vote or, well, gamble on our success. On the connected parachains, dApps and others category, we have the Web3 game Everloot publishing interesting stats from their latest launch. The Puppy Teleporter app lets you move .ksm to from either Relay Chain's Asset Hub, among other things. It uses SmallDot, the light client, and the app is open source and a good example of using Polkadot API and SmallDot, but right now the transactions on Puppy kind of break Nova wallets, so be careful there. Elastic has a cool new visualization of core time price over time and other statistics just in time for Kusama's core time sales to be active as well. Check them out. On the community and ecosystem side, we have an embarrassing bit of news where Polkadot ads are now plastered all over Zurich airport. This is always cringe. It is basically the kind of, I can't even describe how cringe this is. Like, advertising it to normies on airports is a waste of money. And yet, it is received well by the community. The Polkadot Prodigy Hackathon, an online hackathon with 58k in prizes, is open for registration, lasts from May 7th to May 28th. Web3 Summit, on the other hand, is taking place in Berlin this August from the 19th to the 21st. Decentralized Futures has funded the KYC credential ecosystem, including subsidized KYC credentials in collaboration with Polnek and Deloitte, powered by the technology of Kilt Protocol. I wonder who's going to use this. Excited to see. There is a proposal to create a Polkadot Community Foundation in the Cayman Islands to represent DOT holders off-chain. Some of the hypothetical activities this entity would handle are listed as retail marketing activities like social ad campaigns targeting developers, educational programs like the Polkadot Blockchain Academy, complex grants programs like tranched or actively managed awards tied to milestones, community events like contracting with venues and service providers, code management like maintaining the Polkadot.js GitHub repo. I think this is unnecessary. For one, the 175k requested to last 12 months can already be spent on a social ad campaign targeting developers. Polkadot Blockchain Academy already exists, and if a new entity is needed, it can be formed for this exact purpose, requesting funds separately. Complex grants programs are unnecessary. It can be funded via bounties or decentralized futures or any other method available right now, and community events should be done by expert community planning teams with interest and experience in this. Just because someone is paid to do thing X doesn't mean thing X will be done well if that entity has zero experience in it. If you want to make an event planning foundation, make one. And maintaining the GitHub repos can easily be funded via the current treasury mechanism. In general, I think it's pretty silly that we keep adding middlemen to an ecosystem envisioned to fight middlemanism and parasitic entities. If you need a bridge between the fiat world and the on-chain world for payments and agreements, it is trivial to use an established entity as a fiscal proxy host, i.e. someone who does fiat for you, and literally any company can do this and it's legal. We've been doing it for Remark for years now, where all the fiat processing goes through my own personal company in Croatia, and it's all right. Limu published a new shitcoin publishing tutorial, this time launching it on Moonbeam, while also addressing some bugs we found last time when we tried using his tutorial. So check that out if you've also gotten stuck on the same point I have. There's a new research paper on DPIN devices being more eco-friendly or something. It's basically an Akurust shell on Arcsif, but it is what it is. You can read it if you're interested. Polkadot AI is about decentralizing AI with Origin Trail and Polkadot. You know my opinion on AI and blockchain stuff. It is what it is. If it hypes the boat, it's good, right? And Franklin Templeton enabled peer-to-peer trades of blockchain fund shares. So allegedly they have some tokenized investment fund, and they can now let people who bought into this fund exchange shares peer-to-peer directly, so you can just move tokens back and forth. And to wrap up, there's this interesting question of the day. I published on Twitter a poll without looking it up. Do you know the difference between Snowbridge, Hyperbridge, and Beefy? And most people said no. And this is pretty discouraging, as like, I'm wondering what causes this information asymmetry. Can we help this by somehow being less techno-elitist, dumbing the terminology down, or is there another better path to take? What would make people understand this or even care about this enough to go learn and understand this? And I keep wondering, is it even necessary? Or would it just be enough to build an app that uses any of these technologies and then say, this is an app that uses this technology, and it would be much more self-explanatory than going through lengthy papers and dissertations about these things. Anyway, let me know what you think. That's it for this time, and see you in the next one.